Hello everyone and welcome to week 8. Week 8 will close out our unit on the different functional areas of libraries, and we'll get started with our next unit, which focuses on information retrieval skills, including looking for books in library catalogs, looking for articles in databases, and finding credible information on the internet. So let's talk about week 8, okay? This week, there are two major things going on. First, you'll be learning about the world of information services. Then you'll be setting up your LibGuide and submitting the URL for the preview screen of your LibGuide. In this video, I'll be explaining the role of library support staff in information services and going over some important details for the assignment. Information services are a function of library work that happens all over the library, meaning physically, right, at different service desks. During any library program, such as story time, you can even be asked a question while walking to and from different parts of the library. Information services can be very broad in a sense because patrons will ask questions about all different kinds of information. But information services can also be very specific when it comes to things like reader advisory and reference questions, which you'll be reading about in this week's readings. This is why it's important for all library support staff to have a basic understanding of a few kinds of information, which I'll go over now. For example, you'll need to know information about the library's operations, or you'll need to know how to find this information, even if it means looking at the library website of the library you're standing in at that moment. Library information can refer to things like library hours, the library location, in some cases directions to the library that you might be providing over the phone. You'll need to know other library locations in the area or know how to look those up in the case of when you're referring patrons to other libraries. And you'll also want to have a good idea of what the library's organizational chart looks like. You may remember that organizational charts were included as a requirement for the library interviews assignment. The point of having you ask for the organizational chart or finding it yourself was to show you examples of how different library support staff, librarians, deans, or directors are structured in a given library. This will be important for you to know about your own library because you may get questions such as, who can I make a complaint to about the library's collections? Or who's in charge of reviewing donations at your library? You will usually be given time in your first week of employment to learn all of this about the library. And asking to see the organizational chart can help you better understand how the library operates. It will also be important for you to have a basic awareness of your library's collection or collections. Most libraries have a few collections that make up their overall collection. For example, at Neely Library, we have a main stacks collection, which is our main collection. You can see that here on this map, and it is this quite long row of shelves, right, from A to Z using the LCC classification system. We also have a reference collection. We have a small children's collection. We have a collection of atlases, which you'll see over here in the atlas case. And we even have a collection of CDs in the library. One of our most popular collections is the course reserves that are housed behind the circulation desk. That's because they get used so often. Students know to just come straight to the circulation desk and ask for their course reserves there. We also have a periodicals collection, which you can access primarily online, but we do have some print materials in the periodicals room. This includes things like newspaper, magazines, and academic journals. It will be nearly impossible for any one library support staff to memorize the contents of an entire collection, but being able to answer a question like, where's the children's collection, right? That can help get patrons the information they need as quickly as possible. If a patron wanted to search for specific titles in the children's collection or is doing a research paper on children's publications, then I would refer them to the reference librarian at the reference desk. Knowing when to refer patrons to a librarian or another department will be part of your job in providing information services and will be based on a particular library's policies, culture, and workflows. For example, at Neely Library, which is an academic library, we ask our library technicians, our library clerks, and our student workers in circulation, at the periodicals desk, and in tech help to always refer students to the reference librarian when it comes to asking questions about finding information in our collection. That is so that librarians can teach students and library users how to look up materials in the library catalog instead of simply looking it up for them. This is part of our library culture because we are a teaching institution and have a heavy focus on teaching information literacy whenever we can. Your readings for this week begin with the section from Chapter 5 that explains the importance of becoming familiar with the different types of collections that we usually see in libraries. You'll also be reading about what is called reader advisory, which is another type of information service where library staff are often asked for reading recommendations. In this week's discussion, you'll be making 4 reading recommendations. And I do ask that you pay special attention to the appropriateness of your recommendations for a specific audience. One of the main points I would like you all to walk away with from this week is that even if you don't know all of the information off the top of your head, it is okay to respond with something like, I don't have any recommendations for a 4th grader that's interested in science, but I'm sure we can look that up, right? And that's something you can Google. The next major thing we have going on this week is the LibGuide setup assignment. The instructions for this assignment are very specific. After you read through the introduction, you'll learn about the 2 options you have for creating LibGuides in LibGuides, right? Whether you start fresh or copy content from an existing layout. Please watch both videos to get a better understanding of what you will be getting yourself into based on the type of LibGuide you create. After creating your LibGuide, you'll be adding pages, boxes, and rich text content to start building out your dream library website. These instructions, numbered 1 through 8, are going to tell you exactly what is required for this assignment. If you're choosing to create a LibGuide using existing content, you will need to go back and clean up your copied guide. You'll need to ensure that you are not submitting any of the content that I created, with the exception of one thing that you will find in the second video on this page. So please watch both of these videos. I also want to point out that number 6 on your instructions mentions the use of headers to place the mission statement and values on your home page's welcome box. I hope it's clear that you are not expected to write an original mission statement, as this is a pretty serious undertaking that is usually done by library administration. In the future, you'll be asked to adapt a mission statement found on another library's website to match your dream library. You are also welcome to put something together as a draft that you can refine later. But for this assignment, you literally only need the words mission statement and values in the heading 3 paragraph style to meet the expectations for number 6 of this assignment. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, what you're doing to submit this assignment is copying the URL from the preview page of your LibGuide and pasting that into the text entry box for this assignment. This assignment is very much about getting your LibGuide set up. At this point, it's less about the content of your Dream Library website and more about making sure that you all are comfortable with the basics. I would say that this assignment is probably 75% watching the demonstration videos and about 25% actually creating the LibGuide, adding or editing pages, right? Creating boxes and content and doing additional editing. The more closely you watch the videos and take notes, the easier the technical aspects of this assignment will be. If you've completed this assignment and you want to take your work on the LibGuide a step further, watch the LibGuides training video that I shared in the week 7 summary. Then you should feel more comfortable moving forward and continuing to build out your LibGuide. Right now, I think it'd be best to start thinking about what kinds of services your library will offer and working on your homepage, the About page, and the Services page. After we practice searching for library materials over the next few weeks, we can start talking about building a mini collection for your library. I'm feeling very confident that you all have everything you need to be successful with this assignment. Please reach out via Canvas inbox with any questions that you may have. No question is too small. I hope you all have a good week. And once we get through week 8, we will have a bit of a catch-up week during week 9. So there is a bit of a rest coming soon. Okay, have a good week and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.